Okay, guys, well, this is the Mystery Teachings Research Notes, the 13 Real Tribes of Israel, Part 3. And just like the other two videos, I will be just relaying this information and putting it out there in quite a raw way, so I'm going to try and make it connect and make it fluid, of course, in a way that you can understand easily. But I just want to let you know that sometimes I, may tangent off and I may go on rambles and, just to account for that. And sometimes I might pronounce something wrong or get a name wrong because I'm just really trying to relay the information. Basically, what's happening is it is getting quite involved now, and so I really do want to start putting the information out because otherwise it becomes overwhelming, and then this is what happens. It gets to the point where I don't want to do a video because there is so much information. And it also, the information you found like a week ago, there's certain little things that you forget, and so it just kind of becomes this research material for myself that I know what I'm finding, but I'm going to start, having more difficulty relaying it to everyone else. So this is why I have to stop now, what I've found so far, and get this out to you guys. And, also have it on record as well. And then I can come back later anyway and do it properly and maybe do a narration and do it like I did the Mystery Teaching series for, others that maybe aren't so far along the path of seeking and need a little bit more help in joining all the dots together. But for most of you guys that are following my videos, I know that you are well up to this level and you are ready for this info. So let's get stuck into it. And I thought what I would do is first start with reading out the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is the Jewish version, just to give us, a bit of an understanding of the storyline. And it's pretty much the same, regardless of whether it's, from the Jewish or the Christian or whatever. It doesn't really matter, guys, because as we know, when we look at the information, it's all the same thing. It's only lower consciousness that's taken control of the knowledge and then used it for their own purposes and their own agenda. And of course, for them to be able to do that, they had to separate us and they had to hide the truth from us of who we really are. And so now this is all being rediscovered. And it's through seeking the information that this is being rediscovered. And joining our own dots, not just waiting for the information to be relayed to us from, some channel or some documentary series or, some priest or some guru or whatever it is. It's about us ourselves having an understanding for who we are. And this is understanding that the greatness lies within us, not outside of us. This is, again, as I say, this ET agenda of having everybody looking outside themselves all the time, that the greatness is with, out somewhere else, off Mother Earth, and beyond, that we, have to move beyond who we are before we find greatness. And that's just absolutely incorrect because we are great. It's just that as the tides move in and out, as the moon, waxes and wanes, it's the same cycle that consciousness goes through and that the souls go through. And this is just the existence of the universe. And so when we move into a time of lower consciousness, of course, all of this information becomes disconnected from us. And we become disconnected from ourselves and Mother Earth, which is why we allow them to do what we do to her, because we have forgotten our connection. And so when this cycle returns of us remembering who we are again, and even the Kiro even say it, remembering ourselves, then we start remembering how sacred, Mother Earth is and all of the creatures that exist on her, and how really they are just another aspect of creation and the Creator, just like us. And so to treat them in such a way is really a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, okay, and the lack of respect we have for creation and that creation within ourselves as well. So this is what this information will do for us. You know, we rediscover who we are and that our divinity is within us. It's not with some ET alien race out there, okay, someone's channeling. And once we understand that, and we really profoundly understand it, because that's the difference too. There's one thing of hearing this information, but it's another thing, actually it's one thing of listening to this information, but it's another thing of hearing it, okay? And actually allowing it to really be processed on every single level and really be considered on every single level, and not allow your consciousness to be distracted by other, less significant things that seem to have substance but really don't. When in fact what you want to do is go within, because that's where the real substance is, in seeking within. Because once you understand who you are, that becomes like a rock for you. That becomes your tower of strength, an unmoving tower of strength that can never be destroyed, by evil, as long as you stand in your truth and as long as you continue to be a good soul. So let's go through what the Jewish say about the 12 tribes of Israel. The tribes of Israel are the traditional divisions of the ancient Jewish people. Biblical tradition holds that the 12 tribes of Israel are descended from the sons and grandsons of the Jewish forefather Jacob, and are called Israel from Jacob's name given to him by God. The 12 tribes are as follows: Reuben, Simeon, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Ephraim, and Manasseh. The story of the 12 tribes begins when Jacob and his family went down to Egypt as 70 souls. In Egypt, the Israelites were fertile and prolific. They multiplied and increased very greatly. And there they became the Israelite people. Following the death of Joseph, one of Jacob's sons, who had become viceroy of Egypt, Pharaoh oppressed the Israelites by placing upon them burdensome labor. God remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and with Jacob, made himself known to Moses, and rescued the Israelites from Egypt. By this time the nation numbered 600,000 men on foot, which is usually understood to be military-aged men, excluding women and children. At Mount Sinai, the Israelite nation is given its laws and regulations, the Torah, and affirms their covenant with God after wandering for 40 years in the desert under leadership of Moses. The 12 tribes enter the land of Canaan with Joshua in command. After conquering the land, each tribe was allotted an individual territory to settle. During this period of settlement and the subsequent period of the judges, there was no predetermined pattern of leadership among the tribes, though various crises forced the tribes into cooperative action against enemies. Okay, so this is really what the story is about. Firstly, it's not about any place that actually exists on the planet called Israel and all these different, states and areas. It's about the divine ones. It's actually about the Israel is where the divine ones are descended from, the whole 104. And the tribes of Israel are the white race, okay, of the 13 tribes, which is actually the 12 tribes, because, as we said, the Messiahs are counted twice, because the Messiahs are actually a solid emanation from God connected to Mother Earth, and then from that emanates through that emanates the Messiahs again into the 12 tribe alongside with the divine ones as equal to the divine ones. It's just that the Messiahs are part of God's permanent extension onto the physical plane, and that he needs to always be present on the physical plane. And then through God's extension, so imagine that ethereal arm stretching out from God onto Mother Earth, placing his hand upon Mother Earth, that is what illuminates that from the Orion Nebula when the light, the angles of light change and the Creator, his influence returns upon the realm, upon Mother Earth. And again, I say his because I'm speaking of the way that this is relayed throughout Scripture. Though I do want to always mention, or for you guys to think that when I do say him, I want you to automatically just allow for that female aspect of God as well, because it is there, because it's in everything. And so we have to actually imagine that it's in the macrocosm as well. And so to properly perceive God, we have to understand that God also has this female counterpart as part of creation, because this is part of the universe, and this is why we have the 7 Hermetic principles that has gender as part of this. Okay, so basically, let's just have a look at the information that confirms itself. So this is what I want to go back and show you after I've read it, what we can find with the actual pendant and the codes and the other information that's now been revealed of what this can confirm, because we know that Scripture has been so corrupted, guys. I mean, absolutely corrupted to the nth degree, And so I don't take anything from Scripture unless I can verify it. And I'm not interested in all of these, grandsons of sons and all of this way they can deflect onto different characters, when really it's the story about the same ones, the same divine ones. It's just being told in different ways. And so sometimes we may be seeing a story of the divine ones that is actually, they've used a particular name, but it may not be anything to do with that particular, because we don't even really know if all of the names are being relayed correctly in the correct sequence. So we have to make an exception for that. We have to understand that could be the case. And until we can confirm things, we just leave things as, okay, it's there, but unconfirmed. And then there may be things that look like they should be confirmed, but we just need a little bit more information. And so we have them also there. And then we have the stuff that we can confirm through the information that we've already been given from the codes in the pendant and what else that's, unlocked for us. And so it goes on to say that the 12 tribes begins when Jacob and his family went down to Egypt as 70 souls. Well, now I'm taking from this the 70 souls is talking about the ethereal, and plus we've got 7 as well, which is the ethereal number, the number of the ethereal. The Israelites again are the divine ones, or the chosen ones, and I don't want to call them the chosen ones really, because it's not really the way it is. It's just it's in our consciousness to think of chosen ones is to think that someone gets picked by someone else, and that's not what the chosen ones are. They are just divine by birthright. So really, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the Israelite people and the Jewish people. They are the 104 divine souls that are basically what all creation then flows from those 104, and it is layered down. And this is why it's a perfect way to see the pyramid, and why I'm going to bring you the pyramid symbolism later on, because it really does explain to you exactly all about how it works, and how the pyramids were really telling us all about the divine ones. That was what it was all about. It's the symbolism for the divine ones, and how basically even the capstone being removed is part of the symbolism of us being in lower consciousness. And when they just see the gold of the capstone as nothing more than just materialistic and something they can see and have to sell for greed, then we know we're in lower consciousness, and we know that there is definitely no illumination of the divine. And so I'll bring you that, after we've gone through this. Now, it goes on to say that they went down and they increased greatly. Okay, so this is probably the process of after the divine are created onto the physical plane through the layering of each divine soul after another. It goes to the 104, okay, and they become the Israelite people that then settle the earth, okay? And And then it goes on to say that God remembered his covenant with Abraham, and we've gone into the covenant with Abraham and the Torah with the mystery teachings. But his covenant with Abraham, and made himself known to Moses and rescued the Israelites from Egypt. So his covenant with Abraham is basically his covenant with the divine male souls. They're actually missing a Messiah here. There should be four, okay? So there's one missing. And the covenant is that whenever God returns, of course, God returns through the Messiahs. And the males are who illuminate first, because this is why they are the Ark of the Covenant. And this is also why we see the Lamb, okay? Because it's like the Messiahs have a part of the Lamb from God. And so when God returns the Lamb within the Messiah's return, okay? If you can understand it within that way. So God is always present, but he is not always present, okay? And you need to understand that that's how it works. So even though the Messiahs all have a part of the divine within them, it's not always illuminated unless the Creator returns and illuminates. Remember, once again, that hand, coming out from, God consciousness, God, and basically being relayed onto Mother Earth and illuminated from there. And then that then layers out. So it's again like the cup, the cup on the Ace of Cups. If you have a look at that and how it overflows, it's like the manna. The manna overflows from the top cup. Think of those champagne glasses that they stack up high. And that's probably what it even is symbolic for when they do it at weddings, because, weddings are all about the coming together of the twin souls, actually. This is what the bridal chamber is all about within the Kabbalah. Okay, so even think of that. If that is how it is, the top just keeps illuminating down. And again, the pyramid, also is a perfect representation of how this happens. And then it goes on to say that the nation numbers 600,000 men on foot. So obviously this is the other souls that also come through into the new cycle that have, seen through their challenges and tests as souls in the last incarnation. And I would say that that's just more of a representative number of the 6, being that that's manifested into the physical, 6 being a physical number and all about the physical. So see how we have to look into these numbers as well for the core of that number meaning. And then of course, because it's 600,000, there would be more layers into this symbolism, but I don't quite know what that is yet. So all I know is that I can pull a 6 from that, meaning that it's in the physical, and I can pull a 7 from it up here, which means that it's in the ethereal. So let's keep going. And so then it goes on to say that at Mount Sinai, the Israelite nation is given its laws and regulations, the Torah. Well, now Mount Sinai is basically representative of us, basically. And Mount Sinai represents the ethereal body and all of the ethereal chakra points, including the third eye pineal gland. And this is how we receive the Torah, which are God's law or wisdom from God. Okay, it's wisdom from God that is always there. It's just when we access it. Okay, it's never not there. It's just this cycle changes, and with that cycle is our access to our divinity. Just as I said with the moon, if you can think of the moon, how it waxes and wanes, it's just the same thing. It's just the cycle. And affirms their covenant with God. Okay, so that once again brings it down to their divinity and their covenant with God of who they are as the Messiahs. And then it goes into say, after wandering 40 years, or we can see the 4 is foundation, but now we know that the 4 is also the 4 tribes. And so we can see that within this number, under the leadership of Moses. Now, Moses is the intermediate consciousness between us and the creator. It's basically where all the information exists. It's like the universal mind that we can access. And so even Hermes is the same type of symbolism. Okay, and the number 5 Hierophant card. The Hierophant is also the same, and this is where the Antichrist Catholic Church have decided to go and inject themselves and replace Hermes and Moses, basically. Okay, and so it goes on to show us then that this is the information that we use to enter the land of Canaan, and that's obviously probably the golden age, land of milk and honey. And, each tribe was allotted an individual territory to settle. And I'll show you more in that diagram how that each tribe is actually sent north, south, east, and west. And the Hopi even say this, okay? The Hopi and all of the North American Indians, even the Andeans, okay? So even the south, down Peru and they all say the same thing. But they're also talking about the fractal of that as well, because within that, each tribe, and as I'll show you, are 4 clans, okay? And so they also go north, south, east, and west, and this is also tied into what the pyramid shows us. And so we can get a little bit information about some of these tribes, but we do have to realize that some of these names, may have been changed. I think that we're pretty safe with some of the main names that we come across. But it's some of the other names we do have to be careful of, and where they talk about sons and grandsons and who's related to who. So we really need to let the information prove that rather than just allow the church, the religious establishment, to tell us that, okay? And so then it goes on to saying, during this period of settlement and subsequent period of judges, there was no predetermined pattern of leadership amongst the tribes. So meaning that it was a golden age, because this is exactly what they say in Greek mythology, and the festival of Kronos, or Chronia rather, which is celebrating Kronos, who is the overseer of the golden age, okay? Kronos is the overseer of the golden age. Saturn, who they've tried to scare us away from. Wonder why they've tried to do that. Okay? And it's because each of us are equal, because as I said in the previous video, the only way that the divine ones can illuminate to their fullest is be of total service to humanity, to creation, to all of creation, not just to humans, but animals as well, and creation, Mother Earth, everything, okay? And that's in their divinity and their goodness emanates everything else within the collective. And so this is where we have to get out of this mentality of thinking that there are leaders that are going to be basically, no different than what we see now in lower consciousness, when we have this, oh my God, unconscious, totally cold-hearted. I mean, I've never seen less humans, and this is why I do actually call them reptilians, okay? And I've had someone say they were a little bit, didn't like that. Well, I'm sorry. If it fits, if the name fits, wear it. And it does, because they are cold-hearted, thin-lipped, bloody, slitty-eyed, just slit your throat without even thinking twice about it consciousness. And this is where people then always think that leadership leads to, this type of dominating. And this is not true. Okay, this is only when we're in lower consciousness. And really, when you have a look at the cycle and evolution of the soul, we're really not in lower consciousness for very long. And it's probably a good thing. When you look around to what we've done, I really do think it's a good thing we aren't in lower consciousness for a long time. And so, once again, the cycle is about to complete. This is why this information becomes known to us. The ether's returning. We're consciously expanding. It's giving us the information to find knowledge that we previously had no access to before. And so now we have to use this to have an understanding of who we are and where they've tried to separate us. Because once we know who we are and how they've tried to separate us, then we can actually empower ourselves and know how to defend ourselves against them. And not that it's going to be really that hard, because their time is over and they know it. But this is why they're probably about to get really quite nasty and ugly, and what I fear for those that are really quite ignorant to all of this information and are not following the inner path of the hermit. Because if you are following the inner path of the hermit, you are protected by divinity, by your divinity. That's why it's a number 9, okay? Because God protects you and gives you the path you need. It's always been there. He wouldn't, God would not put you on the physical plane without a chance of success. So there is success there to be found if you're using all of the tools of who you are, and that comes from actually understanding who you are. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these diagrams. So what I've done is actually number these tribes. And as I've said, sorry about that, sometimes this goes a bit wonky when you try and increase it. Okay. So we've got the 12 tribes, which are really the 13, because as we said, Jesus is symbolic for the messiahs, the male and female messiahs of the white race, and the messiahs are the always existing on this physical realm part of the creator, and they are never moving. But from this emanates forth the 12 tribes, but also the messiahs again, which is symbolized by Mary Magdalene. Okay, and we can even see this when we look over here. It's got 1045. Now we've got 104 being the divine ones, okay, and 5 being the verse number. But if we know now that 5 is destiny and the covenant, but also God's presence on the physical plane with the divine ones. Okay, and it's interesting, I've seen a Freemasonry picture, and I think I've even done a video on it actually. It really did spark my curiosity, this picture. Had a lot of information in it. And on the floor they have a 5-pointed star. And so I found that interesting, that at the root chakra on the floor, and they even have it in the perspective that it's actually lying on the floor, was this 5-pointed star. And that's what it gave me the realization that it's God emanating down onto the physical plane, his will, destiny, law, himself. And so this is why now I think it's a really good visualization to have of the arm coming out and on the head of Gaia, on Mother Earth, and the thumb and 4 fingers. I really do think that's a great symbolic visualization, for me anyway, of how we feel the Creator's influence on the physical plane. Now, you guys could all be different, and everyone can use symbolism differently, and this is what the great thing about symbolism is that we can actually change it slightly to help us understand the information. We can't go and reinterpret it, which is what I, really don't like seeing when I see people reinterpret the Rider-Waite tarot card deck into their own meaning of what they want symbolism to mean. Not that that's particularly a bad thing, but it's just that you're changing the archetype of what we all know as a collective for that symbol to mean. And see, even when we move out of higher consciousness into lower consciousness, we actually rely on that collective memory of those archetypes, and that's what we can tap into when we really are working through our divinity and who we are in these times of lower consciousness. This helps us to access this information as well. So we see it there. Now, anyway, this is where else we see it, Gospel of Thomas. And I'd like to thank Monique from the group for bringing this to my attention, and I love how information comes like this sometimes. And it's perfect, really, because it's describing what I was saying about how God's presence is always here. So it's number 19. Jesus said, "Blessed is he who came into being before he came into being." Okay? Blessed is he who came into being before he came into being. If you become my disciples and listen to my words, these stones will minister to you. Now, what is unmoving and unchanging? A stone. Okay? For there are 5 trees for you in paradise which will remain undisturbed summer and winter, and whose leaves do not fall. So that's meaning that even when we are in lower consciousness, part of the divinity of the Messiahs is always remaining in the ethereal, okay? In the garden, basically, in a way, in the trees, okay? Even though they're kicked out of the garden when they move into lower consciousness. And I would say that this is halfway through the cycle when we hit the second gate, the silver gate, and then we start descending down from there. And so these 5 trees are in the garden, undisturbed summer and winter, and whose leaves do not fall. And so this is unchanging immortality. And this is when we also see the number 8, which equates to immortality, but also the Messiahs. And then the 8 immortals from the Chinese mythology as well ties into this. Whoever becomes acquainted with them will not experience death. So whoever becomes acquainted with their own divinity will not experience death, because that's the only way that you will actually discover yourself, is through your own divinity. And so you're responsible for finding your own divinity. Even when the Messiahs illuminate and the divine ones illuminate, the whole test of all of your incarnations has been for you to remember who you are, regardless of your tests and challenges, regardless of what has been put on your path to sway you from your path. Your unchanging, solid belief in who you are has seen you through. And this is why I say, guys, we really need to understand ourselves as that real solid rock of a tower, that we know who we are and that can't be destroyed by them. Because when we know who we are, their bullshit doesn't work on us, their psyop. Okay, it doesn't work on us. Right, so let's have a look what else we can find. So I've done some numbers, and I found that 4 times 13, if we do actually include the other number as well, as 52, and then that ties into the cycle of the calendar round. Okay, so the Maya knew about this too. Okay, and the calendar round takes 52 years for the same weekday, month and day and Harb day to realign together. Okay, now listen to this. When they added 5 kin, it became 365 Harb. So they're even accounting for the 5 within their symbolism. Okay, they absolutely knew about this. And so we've got 2 Messiahs and 24 divine ones all together, because the Messiahs are counted as 2 separately, but then they're counted again, remember? And so now we just focus on the 24, because the Messiahs are one of the 24 or one of the 12 tribes, because each tribe represents 2, a pair, okay, a twin soul. Now then we have the 4 races, black, white, yellow, red, the 12 tribes in each of those races, okay, but now we have 3 tribes in every clan, and they're sent to the north, south, east and west. Now we know that they're sent to the north, south, east and west because we see that the Hopi prophecy and all the North American prophecies say this, right? Now when we have a look at the tribe of Israel, okay, the tribes of Israel, we can see that each tribes now have been placed in a camp. They've been divided into 3. So this is what happens. So once again, it's in a sequence. And we can see when looking at this diagram, and even we could actually think about it emanating out, just like the Fibonacci spiral, okay? Even in the way that they've designed it. The Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail in the middle, and then, moving out. We've got Moses and the priests. Well, it's not the priests, it's Moses and Hermes, are the intermediate consciousness that are accounted for as well. And they can also be accounted for as part of the thumb. As I was talking about the thumb of God on the head, on Mother Earth. So think of that as well, because that's our access to divine knowledge. Now, we've got the camp of Dan, the camp of Judah, the camp of Reuben, and the camp of Ephraim. Dan is the north, Reuben is the south, and then we've got the 2 other tribes, Ephraim of the west and Judah of the east. Now, each of these tribes is symbolized in these 4 symbols that we see also on the world card. Okay, and the world card in the tarot is showing us the new beginning, because it's the card after judgment, and then we come into the world card, and so it's showing us the 4 tribes. And so we have Dan represented by the eagle, we have Judah represented by the lion, we have Reuben represented by man, and we have Ephraim represented by the bull. Now, each of this is also showing us the divinity within animals as well, because there is divinity within animals. We have to understand that there is a divine sequence within the animal kingdom as well, and this is why we also see this relayed in the symbolism, okay? And so each of these tribes, north, west, east, south, are broken into 3, and then they're dispersed in the north, west, east, south. And they're all done this so that there are then 4 different races in the north, okay? 3 different races in the north, east, south, and west, okay, as well. So that's how that works out, so that it's all dispersed, and sometimes why we see mythology in areas that we don't quite understand that seem to be the same but different, like the Sumerians and the Egyptians. And then we even have, sometimes we see the Virgin Mary and Jesus depicted as dark-skinned, okay? And this is because this is what happens. All of the tribes are sent in these different directions to re-establish the, existence of creation in a new cycle. And this is when these great civilizations are built. Okay? Now we can also see this in this cross here. All right? Because they know, look at this, the 4 tribes being dispersed, 3 tribes each direction. Okay? And then here, look, even on the outside, they're showing the 4 tribes again. Each tribe, each race, 1, 2, 3, 4, different races, north, south, east, west, or different directions of the earth. It may not be north, south, east, but, it's just symbolic for that. This is how the, divine ones are dispersed onto creation in the new cycle. Now, what's really interesting, guys, is I feel like a bit silly, but I've actually missed out some numbers on the key. Would you believe it? And this is what I do sometimes, so I'm sorry about that. I do this sometimes, but sometimes I think it's for a reason when I miss information, because it would have confused me if I got the 5 and 12 here before when it was in line with the solar plexus and I was looking all at this information differently. So maybe not, maybe it wouldn't have, I don't know, but I always think I find things for a reason. And so I found that the 5 and 12 are actually here because I haven't counted this little bit of the Fibonacci sequence and added it together and accounted for it here. And that's 5, 12. And here we have again 5, God on the, physical plane, God and the 4 messiahs, the 4 races on the physical plane, and 12 into the 12 tribes. And this is also emanating from the solar plexus, which is where we are birthed through as souls, because we come in through our solar plexus, our ka, which is our ka soul, because our soul is divided into our ka and our ba. And our ka soul is where we are basically birthed into the physical container, and our ba soul leaves through the 3rd eye. Okay? The pineal gland. That's where we shed our physical container, through our pineal gland, basically. And I suppose we can bring it back into the physical for that, because that really is also probably a symbolic way it happens. I mean, I'm just trying to understand the information. So I'm not trying to stay on, I know all the processes. As I said, I'm just bringing to you the information as I'm finding it. And, well, this may very well be the case on some levels. And so we have to, look into it that way, because it's definitely through the 6th level that we reunite with God consciousness, the pineal gland, the 3rd eye, and it's even in the Andean prophecy that they say that this is when the Messiah illuminates, is through the sixth level. Both messiahs, the male and the female, illuminate after they've hit the sixth level. Okay, and then as I've said, from the male, then we have the female illuminate because it follows the same sequence that they've shown us in the Rider-Waite tarot card. Now, the 104, that's what else I wanted to show you, is also present. And the 104 we have from the 8 messiahs and the 96 divine ones. So we're actually counting it all together, and that gives us 104. So we're even counting the, both the pairs, and we get 104. And we see that in the temple of Zeus, it has 104 columns dedicated to the gods. And we also see 12 titans that ruled over a golden age, okay, and 12 Olympians, 6 male, 6 female. But I think that once again we've lost the rest of the information in the golden age, or it could have been just symbolically they show 6 male, and the males are the ones symbolic of the tribe, and these 6 females are the ones that are symbolic of the tribe. It may also work in that way, I'm not sure. And so we also see it there. Now we've got here that Ezra 8:25, the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures fell down and worshipped God, who was seated on the throne, and they cried, Amen, hallelujah. Right, we've got the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures. Okay, the 24 elders. Now, I am taking this from the New International Version. Now, I've normally taken it from King James. Sometimes I look at the other ones too, but really, when we're looking at information, I think the best thing to do is actually take it from all of the interpretations and try and work out the one that actually fits with what the information's showing us, rather than just put ourselves down one path of information, because we could be missing other information. And I've actually found that they've called the 4 living creatures the 4 living beasts or something else, and they've kind of put another slant on it, because they love to call us beasts, okay? And this is only because they're using the symbolism of our tribes, or, in a way that they can, but with a different perspective put on it. As though we're lowly, unconscious, beastly of that nature. When in all it is really just a symbolic, signification for each of the tribes. And so we've got the 24 elders and we've got the 4 living creatures. 4 living creatures is showing, as I said, these 4 different tribes, okay, here. This is it. This is the 4 living beasts, okay? And then it goes on to say, and God who was seated on the throne. So I'll bring you interpret this picture in a second, and I'll just read this one first. So this one's in Revelations 9:4. Now, interestingly, in Revelations, the tribe of Dan goes missing. And so this is again where we have to understand that there's been so much corruption of the text, right? And they're not going to give us all the information. Because if the Bible was going to give us all the information, we'd already have it, okay? We wouldn't be needing any of this. We'd just read the Bible and we'd know, oh, that's right, we're actually, divine, and we're immortal if we're good souls, and there's a, conscious evolution, and so, we should just continue on our path and live our life in the best way we can, and not, do things that aren't, that are going to hurt others. No, that's not what we've been taught at all, and this is for a reason. And so let's just keep this in mind, all right? All of this manipulation when we're looking at texts. And so again, the New International Version goes on to say, then the exiles who had returned from captivity sacrificed burnt offerings to God of Israel, 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams. Now 96, remember we had the 96 back here for the 96 divine ones? Okay, if we separate the messiahs and the divine. All right? So that's there as well. And then it goes on to say 77 male lambs as sin offering and 12 male goats. All this was a burnt offering to the Lord. 77. Now, where have we seen 77, guys? Would that be on the bottom here at this root chakra? Okay. That is a reflection of the divine at the top, because we see this in Malkuth as well. Okay. And where the souls journey up the 7 gates back to God consciousness, and we see 7, 7. A 7 denoting each of the souls, male and female. Okay? So it's all there for us to see, and it's even, as I said, if we use this information to find the information in Scripture, then it makes it a lot easier, and it actually gets rid of a lot of the corruption and the noise that just confuses us and keeps us, basically chasing our tails. Now, in this painting, which I don't quite know who the artist is, so if anybody can find that information for me, that would be fantastic. We see that we've got the Vesica Pisces, which is showing us not only that this is symbolic of the womb and the creation, the vagina, the creation of everything, okay, where everything emanates from in the physical, but it's also showing us sacred geometry. They're giving us a clue that it's based on sacred geometry straight away, because otherwise they could have drawn it differently or shown us that in a different way, but they haven't. They've specifically shown us the Vesica Pisces, and they do this all the time when you go through all the churches. Okay, they always show us the same symbols. Now, we've got the 7 up the top as well, so here we have the 7 accounted for, all right, the 7 gates, and look, they almost look like little vortices. Okay, so it's even, representing almost the chakra system. Now, we've got God sitting on the throne in the middle, and then again we've got the 4 tribes, okay, symbolized around the outside. And remember that these tribes have each got the 4 races as well. And so we've got the eagle, man, the bull, and the lion that represents each of them. Now, then we come down here, and we've actually got the female divine soul being shown more in the ethereal, because remember, she's ruled by the moon and the ethereal, so they've given her wings, and we've got the male ascending the stairs. Okay? And we've got let's see how many stairs we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 by the looks of it. 12. So we can see that that's representing the 12 tribes as well. Now, interestingly, we've got these crowns here, and there's 9 crowns. Now, I know 9 represents the ultimate, culmination of the divine within the divine, because it's like a fractal number. But it also is showing us in this symbolism that the 8 is contained within the 9, because we have 8 of these figures in the background, and there's 13 of these figures in the background, by the way, so they're actually showing the 13 as well. But 8 of these figures are actually got the crowns on, but one is holding his crown off, and I'm actually thinking that that's representing God. Okay, so the number 9 we could actually be looking at as the 8 messiahs, as well as one being God, because whenever we do see the symbolism of God, what have I done here? Done too many clicks. We actually see that, now I've lost my train of thought because I've been thinking about what I just clicked over here and done. What have I done? Oh, I fixed it. Great. Good. Because otherwise that would have annoyed me for the rest of the time. Okay, so we're seeing the 13 symbolized. We're seeing the 9 symbolized. And so the 8 is also being seen in the 9. So now we can see that that is indeed what we can see the number 9 as, is the 8 also being present within that number 9, within the 8 messiahs. Okay? And so we also have this in this picture as well. We've got God seen in the middle of what looks like a big vagina. He's showing creation. We've got the 8 heads around the outside symbolizing the 8 messiahs. And we've actually got the 2 messiahs then shown again here. But then behind, I'm pretty sure that there was 12. There was 12 behind as well. Or there could, I can't remember, I counted it before and I haven't gone back. So this picture's actually in the Thy Always Seek group, and I will post these back in the group if you want, guys. I will actually post them on the feed so you can, have a look at them again. Now, the other thing that I found is, and I'm starting to look into more too now, is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, okay, and that's symbolizing the 4 different races as well, which is why we've got the pale, and the pale is the yellow, the black, the red, and the white, okay. And when you look at the information of the apocalypse, you can see that this is talking about the divine ones too. And the apocalypse is all when the veil is dropped. Okay, and when the veil is dropped, we see each other for who we really are. This is what the information is saying, because we're moving into our light bodies, we're moving into our ethereal bodies. And as we know, when we look at the symbolism and the tarot, and it shows us that we're ethereal first and foremost, because it's magician, high priestess, then it's empress, emperor, okay? So it's showing us we're ethereal first. And as I said, we're in the ethereal more than we're in the physical, okay? But it just seems because we're existing in the physical and we forget who we are now, that it's very hard to understand that. Now, I did just want to quickly bring you this painting from Leonardo da Vinci, just about the Castor and Pollux and how they were birthed onto the physical plane in eggs. And I am also seeing 4 represented here as the 4 messiahs, but then I'm also seeing the 2 coming from each egg, representing the 2, messiahs within each of the group. And, we can continue to see this information just become fractal within the symbolism, because they were showing us all of this information. Now, the other interesting thing that I've done with this diagram is I've actually added up all these numbers that they've given us, and I've deduced them, actually. I've deduced all the numbers down to numerology, because that's what the ancient Egyptians show us that we do in the pendant. So I've done this with all of these tribes: tribe of Dan, tribe of Judah, tribe of Reuben, tribe of Ephraim. It's given me 19 for Dan, 19 for Judah, 16 for Reuben, and 10 for Ephraim. I've gone and added that up, and that's 64, guys. And 64 is, interestingly, to do with our DNA. Okay, that's the possible number of codons, patterns, 64 possible patterns for a codon within our DNA. Okay? And interestingly, we're also seeing this in the I Ching. And this is 64 possible patterns of when you do the I Ching. Now, to do the I Ching, guys, you don't actually need anything but a coin. And what you do is you throw 6 coins, and if they land on heads or tails, it equals either a straight line or a broken line. And now there's only 64 ways that those coins can drop. Okay? Are you understanding? So there's 64 ways of fate, basically, that coin can drop, either on each side, and give you that pattern. And it just happens to be the same within the DNA. Okay? And then we go over here and we see the chess pattern. The chessboard has 64 places on it. And who was very interested in the chessboard? It was the Freemasons. That's where this picture comes from. And we see that they have relayed this in relation to the Temple of Solomon, which is all about the divine male soul and the divine female soul accessing knowledge from the Creator, from divine wisdom. And this is all covered in the mystery teachings as well. And then we have Athanasius Kircher. Now, I would like to think that Athanasius Kircher was maybe a good guy. I really would, because you know what? Just like Manly P. Hall, I'm starting to realise they kind of gave us quite a bit of information. And he didn't have to give us this information. He could have hidden this a lot differently than the way he's hidden it. And it's starting to become very, very, plain to see for me now that I've got this, further information that what he was talking about. And so he was showing definitely the manifestation of the divine onto the physical plane. And these, what seems like pyramids, are symbolic of that as well, and I will go into this in another video, but I really don't want to don't want to go over, an hour, guys. I mean, it's starting to get ridiculous. So I'll go into a separate one. And really, Athanasius Kircher and a lot of these Hermetic drawings, they really do deserve their own videos, because there is so much information encoded within them. So yeah, I will come back to that, but I just wanted to show you that he is showing this manifestation of this 64. Okay, what we're seeing now, connected to these tribes, okay, and these clans, He is showing us that now. And once again, on this drawing here, and I don't know who this artist was. I have seen the name of this artist, but I've lost it again. And this is an awesome, once again, one of those diagrams that needs its own actual, interpretation. I mean, look at this, the vortex here, right at the heart, it's just, it's unbelievable. Oh no, this is this is the vortex of the solar plexus. This is the heart. And this makes even more sense because we've got the twin souls here being birthed. Okay? So once again, I'll do a video on that one, but I just wanted to bring you this because I figured out how the ancient Egyptians showed us who the tribes are in a little way, to try and figure out, a little bit more information about these tribes. Now, to start with, the Pyramid of Giza is actually 8-sided. So once again, we're seeing this 4 and 8, okay, because it's got 4 sides, but actually when you look at the pyramid properly, they've realized that each of these sides is actually segmented into 2. So once again, now we're seeing the 4 turn to 8, and this is because we've got the twin souls accounted for now in each of these, different separations here as well on the pyramid. Now, they're also north, south, east, west. So I decided to go and have a look at the pyramids and see where everything was lined up with north, south. Now, I found out that on the north side, it's Orion and Sirius. On the south side, it's Orion and Sirius. But on the north side, it's Draco, basically, because Draco's been pulled apart, but Thuban and Draco were basically the same once upon a time. And we've got Ursa Minor here, which is Little Bear. Okay, and so Draco, which is interesting, is, also seen as the serpent and, connects to another culture of Angkor Wat that built the beautiful civilization of Angkor Wat that just happens to align up with Draco as well. So now we're seeing a connection between Draco and Angkor Wat and all of the information from the Hindu about the Devas and the Devas and the Hindu gods. Okay, so they also know the importance of this as well, and they're also relaying information about, the North and Draco and some type of symbolism perhaps to do with this and the tribes of the North. Because to me it almost looks like as well that we have this reflection. We've got Orion and Sirius coming in and then reflecting out through the north. I mean, that's how I can see it as well. Now, another interesting bit of information, because I was looking about mythology about the North Pole Star, is there is actually mythology about this god who was seen before Vishnu, which is Orion. Okay, and so that's quite interesting as well. And here we go through the tribes and they all are actually connected to the Mazzaroth, which is the Zodiac. And so we go down and we've got Gad, Aries, Issachar, Taurus, Simeon or Levi is Cancer, and they've all got their own symbol. Tent, Ass, Sword and Pitcher. Cancer is Benjamin, Wolf. Leo, Ephraim, Bull, Ox or Grapes. Virgo, Asher, Olive Branch or Cup. Libra, Manasseh, Palm Tree or Vine. Scorpio, Dan, Serpent or Apple. Sagittarius, Judah, the Lion. Capricorn, Naphtali, African Deer. And Aquarius, Reuben, Man or Sunburst above the water. And Pisces, Zebulon, Ship. Now, the interesting thing when I was looking into some information about Draco, it came up about there was something about apples and the serpent, that Hercules was sent to obtain the apples while under a pledge to Eurystheus. And basically this is all to do with golden apples on the tree and Draco the dragon. So I find that interesting that, we see this symbolism too, the serpent or the apple here with Dan and Scorpio. And this is also the tribe of the north as well. And as I said, the north face of Giza is actually showing us Draco. So anyway, I just found that interesting and thought that that would, help us try and understand a little bit more about how we can find out information relating to the 12 tribes of Israel. But that's pretty much it for now, guys. I do have some more information in regards to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but I really don't want to keep going. I don't want to, continue on too long. Give you a break to just, process that information, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and how that fits into this information. We'll also have a look at the Maya calendar, and we'll also have a look at Angkor Wat and how there's information within Angkor Wat in regards to the divine ones and the 12 tribes as well, and how that's being relayed through the temple of Angkor Wat, which, by the way, is one of the largest temples, if not the largest temple site in the world. So I'll put this link underneath as well, guys, and you guys can go and check out this information anyway without waiting for me. I'll put all these links under here, so if you want to get stuck into it, please do, go ahead and have a look at all of this information. But that'll do it for now, guys, and I'll leave it here. And as always, peace out.